welcome to another Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today, so tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we got some Halo cosmetics as well as a new statue from Spur Creative. The Mixer Invitational went down, and I'm going to be talking about what I thought of E3. All that and more in this week's episode of Keelhauled Podcast. All right, first up on today's docket. Last week, I wasn't able to really talk too much about what was going to be happening with E3. Unfortunately, it was the Microsoft event, and we got to find out a lot about what was going on with Microsoft, but going into it, we kind of knew that there wasn't going to be any kind of information from Rare as far as Sea of Thieves goes. And as such, I decided to take the time to talk about my thoughts on the arena. Now, I've been thinking a lot about it, and the more I think about it, the more I realize like E3 is kind of a gaming event. And while I strictly podcast about Sea of Thieves, I can't help but be enthralled with the spectacular thing that is E3 every year. So I figured I'd take this episode and kind of break away from the Sea of Thieves news, because to be perfectly honest, the whole team did. So if they're going to hold off on doing any kind of online promotion or weekly stream or weekly dev update or patch notes, things like that, I figured this would be a good time for me to kind of sit back, enjoy E3, and really talk about some of the things that I'm interested in and looking forward to for the next year with gaming overall, because I like playing other games other than Sea of Thieves just as much as you do. So with that, let's talk a bit about Sea of Thieves first, because this week we found out, and hopefully you got this. I didn't have a chance to talk about this because we just didn't know. It would have been great to have known about this and to let you know to do it, but we didn't find out until the Inside Xbox event that happened this last week that everyone that logs into Sea of Thieves got these Halo Spartan liveries. And hopefully you had a chance to log in. I feel like everyone that listens to the podcast probably does log in on a daily basis. So if you did, you've probably already gotten them. But they had Halo cosmetics to kind of coincide with Microsoft's announcement, or at least trailer for the Halo Infinite game that's going to be coming out as a launch title for the Project Scarlet. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about that later on. But these cosmetics are great. They look like they pulled the colors straight from the Warthog, and the figurehead was really just, it was on point. I was talking with Busy Elephant a little bit on Twitter, and he was kind of hoping for a little more true to the aesthetic of Sea of Thieves, where it's not so futuristic, and I kind of see where he's coming from, and I agree. I mocked up a quick little thing with an actual Spartan from Sparta, the helmet that you see in like 300, and the Troy and all those movies that kind of focus in on the Spartan army. And while I thought it would fit, it didn't quite feel like Halo. You knew it was Halo in the same way that like Banjo and Kazooie, the bird and the bear figurehead is intended for that. And I kind of like what they went with. It still has kind of the spear and the Spartan with the shield, and it's got the difficulty setting for I can't even remember what it is. I think it's Elite or something. Shows how much I've gotten a chance to actually play much Halo since the original one came out. And it looks great. They did a really good job. I think it's probably one of my favorite livery sets overall that they've released, probably since, what was one of the ones that I think I really enjoyed the Ghostly, the Athena's stuff. It's hard to say because they haven't had like a full set in quite a while, if you don't count the Wailing Barnacle or the Sea Dog set. The Sea Dog set's kind of a good basis for what you expect as far as like a fantastic kind of out there looking liveries. Sorry, I actually forgot. Not the Wailing Barnacle. I actually mean the Hunter's Call one that you have to get to level 50 to get the full set for. And I'm glad that they just gave us the opportunity. A year ago, we found out that they were giving away cosmetics, and it was kind of a bummer because the people that went to E3 were the people that got the codes, and then they did some giveaways later on. It's been a big kind of like work in progress so far for these liveries and these codes that they've been doing. And I think that they really kind of nailed the balance, because anyone that went to E3 were given codes for these liveries since they weren't going to be able to log into the game, which makes sense. You know, you spend a lot of money, you go to E3, you're purposefully missing out on playing the game on your account, and because of that, you should have the opportunity to get a code to be able to get the Halo liveries that you would normally just be able to get if you logged into the game. Now, these were available for everyone. The social media sites were constantly reminding people, log in, your time's running out. You make sure you just log in. Didn't matter if it was arena or adventure, you just had to log into the game. So I'm hoping everyone that wanted these got these. And then at E3, we found out that there has actually been a brand new statue, Lesedi Singh, created for Sea of Thieves, which is really just awesome. So, and we found out that a company called Spur Creative is the company that actually made not only Lesedi's statue, but Belle's statue, Diving Belle, who is the ghostly figure that's holding on to the I guess it's be a beacon or one of the giant torches that you've seen in the past. If you've seen any images of Rare's like opening walkway to their studio, they always have this big figure, this big ghostly figure holding on to a torch beacon thing. And we found out that it was Belle, and to come to find out that Spur Creative has actually made it, and they did such a great job with it. So kudos to that team for really just taking the whole Sea of Thieves statues to heart and really doing a good job with those. I've been very excited to see some of the behind the scenes for the Belle one and some of their other statues as well too. Along with the last bit of Sea of Thieves news as far as E3 is concerned goes, was the Sea of Thieves Arena Mixer Invitational. And this is where we had 5 teams kind of going at it in the arena, and they played, I believe it was 5 games. And out of the 5 games, whoever accrued the most points. So at the beginning, it was points 1 through 5, and then the final match was worth double, so 2 through 10. And whoever got the most points at the end of all 5 games won a gold-plated Xbox One X. And it was really kind of cool to find out that that this was going to be the prize. Obviously, like with having, you know, what is that, 5 times 20 players minus Joe, having 19 streamers kind of get in there and get their hands dirty and try and represent their teams and whatnot. It was really kind of cool to see just how they worked out. And it was really kind of cool to see some of the people that I know and a lot of people that I don't know. And I felt kind of bad for one of the teams, Rhyme, I believe was the team Patches. Their team actually had the hardest time. And I don't know what happened. It sounded from what we could find out that there were some disconnects and they were only a crew of 3 for a while. And it was kind of frustrating for them, and you could hear it in their voice. And they tried to stay positive while Pete and Adam kind of hosted the entire event. John McFarlane would kind of walk around. He would kind of interview the different streamers who were the captains. And at the end of it, Joe's team won the Shrouded Ghosts. Nobody saw it coming, pun intended. And it was really kind of nice because it definitely had more of the Twitch streamers. Even though this was a Mixer Invitational, it was nice to see some of the Twitch streamers who we've been familiar with kind of win that gold-plated Xbox One X. So I don't know how esports would work as far as being able to see what's going on for the arena. I think you would definitely want to have a couple people to be able to have like overviews of what's going on instead of just swapping between cameras, because even with the tags for people to be able to see like what crew color other people are in, it is still kind of jarring to jump from person to person. So you're on a ship and then you're on an island with another person and you don't get a good overview of who's where and whatnot. So having maybe like an overview camera that can show like what crews are where on a map to see, like, you know, is someone trying to go off and just get chests, or who's duking it out, and then kind of be able to fly in to see the fight overall. I think things like that would be great, giving them the tools to be able to see the view instead of just seeing like a one-on-one perspective from like each player's perspective. So regardless, it was definitely kind of cool to see what pro play would look like with people who've been playing Arena quite a bit, or at least Sea of Thieves for quite a bit, to see some good competition. And it was actually a very close match. I think at the end of the Invitational, Joe's team, the Shrouded Ghosts, won by 4 points total, compared to Ex-Soldiers, the Purple Pirates, who had actually tied for second, and then the Pizza Cat crew, who came in with 16 points, and then Team Patches with 7. So overall, it was really cool to see just what Arena could be like when you have everyone fighting for like really good prizes. I would definitely like to see where Arena goes and what can be done to improve some of the different aspects that I talked about in last episode. Next up on today's docket, I do want to bring to your attention something that, if you're interested in lore outside of the game, you definitely want to jump on this while you can. I don't know how long this is going to be available, but as of June 15th, on Amazon in Comixology, there is a new comic available. And I'm kind of curious what's going on here, because it's called Sea of Thieves Origins #2, suggesting that there is another comic being the first one. This one's titled The Bonds of Union, and it deals with the Merchant Alliance. Now, the reason why I'm impressing upon you the urgency of getting this is because it's free right now. There's no price. You can buy it for free. And if you have the Kindle app on any of your smart devices, you can download it straight to that. Or if you use Comixology, you can view it through there. I downloaded it and read through it. It's definitely something that feels like it's going to be a series that leads up to something different. And I'm not going to talk too much as far as what's in it, but it's definitely apparent that it takes place after the current events that are going on in Sea of Thieves right now. This isn't something that's happening in the past. This is something that definitely coincides currently with not only what's going on with the previous series of comics, the original series, and the as far as like what's in the game right now. There's nothing too spoilery, honestly, and nothing that really kind of hints at what could be coming, aside from the cover. But again, I don't know if this is the intended price. I don't even know if this is intended to be out right now. The release date originally said that it was supposed to be out June 15th. You can get it on Kindle now, and there's no #1. And I'm trying to understand, like, what the intended, like, why is it 2? Why isn't it #1? And why hasn't Rare said anything about this? I haven't checked on any of the other Amazons in like Amazon UK or Amazon CA or different countries as far as if this is available. This is something that I just noticed on Amazon.com for the US. And I can't wait to find out what the story is about this. Like, I'm sure at some point Rare's going to put out a press release talking about the new comic book series. They've been talking about this since New York Comic Con, August of 2018, and now we're starting to actually see it. It's still published by Titan Publishing, and I can't remember who originally wrote it or did the artistry, but it still looks and feels exactly like Sea of Thieves, the first comic books did. So I'm glad to see that. I want the other comics, and if this is intended to be out like this, if it's not intended to be free, then whenever these do come out and they do have an actual price, I will happily lay down the money to be able to pick these up. But for the time being, I'm just going to sit here and kind of, I don't even think, like, something maniacal. Think the most maniacal thing you can think of, and I'll probably be doing that with these. No, that's dumb. I don't even know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's cool to see that we're getting an Origins. They did talk about at the New York Comic-Con panel, Mike, Adam, and Pete. Adam and Pete, of course, if you don't know, Adam and Pete are the two that are in charge of licensing and kind of working with other companies to make outside lore and products for the game. And Mike, of course, Mike Chapman is the design director for the game. So basically, he's in charge of like everything. So if you're wondering why I only ever say their first names for some reason in my mind, but that's because I've been so used to like working around this area with them. So I'm looking forward to when we're going to be getting the Gold Hoarders and the Order of Souls comics. As I understood it, these comics, I believe they said that they were going to revolve around the origins of the trade companies, and that's exactly what this number 2 is. The Spawns of Union is exactly covering the information that deals with how the Merchant Order got started. And there's definitely even hints to stuff that I know I've seen Mike tweet about in regards to the to some of the different people outside of the Devil's Shroud. So definitely, I'm gonna have a link to it in the show notes. So if you want to look for it, if you don't want to have to search for it, you can just click on the link. It'll take you straight to the US Amazon, and straight to it. You can click on it, download it. Like I said, I don't know how long this is going to be free, and I appreciate that it's available because I really wanted to actually read it. But yeah, it's very cool. Very, very cool to see this. I'm looking forward to when we get a proper release. Kind of reminds me of when Thor von Blitz found out about the Athena's Fortune book like 6 or 7 months before it was released. All right, pirates. I have been trying to decide on how to go about wanting to talk about E3. Should I do it as like a bonus episode? Should I do it as like a different podcast? And until I get all that worked out, honestly, before it gets too stale of news, I wanted to kind of share my thoughts on how I felt this E3 went. And I'm going to go ahead and start off with the two major companies that actually had press conferences, and kind of work into some of the specific companies that are making some of the games that I think I would be interested, or at least I think you would be interested, minus Square Enix. I think that's the one company that I don't really care to talk about because I'm just not too interested in what they're doing, even though people are going to yell at me because they're going to be super excited for the Avengers game. Yes, it exists. No, it's not canonical with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I probably won't pay any attention to it because of that. And 2, Final Fantasy VII, because I've never played it. I have no nostalgia for it. It looks cool, but I'm probably going to be focused on many, many other games. So that's about as much as Square Enix as you're going to get out of me. Feel free to add at me. Feel free to tell me that I'm wrong and dumb and that I should be paying attention to those because they're going to be amazing for X number of reasons. But until I get some compelling evidence outside of the one cinematic trailer and the amount of time that it's taking them to release this Final Fantasy game, I'm really, really not impressed. But I do want to talk about what I am impressed with, which was Microsoft. And God, holy crap! You know, I've never been a huge Xbox person. to be perfectly frank. In fact, I've never been a huge PlayStation person either. But last year I picked up a PS4 and I picked up a bunch of the best games that are available, that have been available, that I got like super cheap, which were actually super cheap this last E3 week for the summer play thing that Sony was doing. But without getting too distracted, Microsoft. I owned I owned the OG Xbox when that first came out. I picked that up. I picked up Halo. I picked up a couple other games, and I had a really good time spending hours doing Halo LAN parties with other GameStop employees back before they bought out EB Games. And it was a lot of fun. I had a great time. I think I ripped almost all of my CDs onto that system so that I could listen to all of my music during Crazy Taxi and Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball. And it was a lot of fun. But I eventually sold that system and I picked up an Xbox 360 back in 2011 for Gears of War 3 and Mass Effect 3. Or maybe it was Gears of War 2 and Mass Effect 2. I can't actually remember now which of those it was. But regardless, it was one of those things where I've had the systems, but the systems haven't ever had anything that was so compelling that I felt like I wanted to stick with them. And as a result, I always kind of got rid of them shortly after having them. So as far as consoles go, I'm still not too interested in picking up. By the way, it was Mass Effect 2 and Gears of War 3. Those are the ones that I played back then. And then I had Zumba Fitness for my wife and Kinect Adventures for both of us. Oh, and apparently I played Gears of War 2 as well, and Gears of War. Apparently I actually played those. That's strange. I don't remember playing those. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted. So yeah, Microsoft this year, holy cow. Really surprising. They put on a great press conference, and I think that they punctuated different parts of it with highlights that I thought was really, really good. And the takeaway that I came with it was that Microsoft is still committing to being very active for the next year and a half until Project Scarlet. They announced a lot of different games that are going to be coming to multiple systems, but they showcased them in a way that showed the importance of why it's still going to be worth having an Xbox system for the next year and a half. And I'm glad that they really kind of sat down and really laid out some of the Xbox Game Pass stuff. So if you haven't looked into it, or maybe you have, there is a way that you can purchase up to 36 months of Xbox Game Pass or Xbox Live Gold, I believe. I think it is. I don't have an Xbox console, so I haven't had to pay for that service because the PC, we get it easy for whatever reason. But regardless, if you buy the maximum number of months and then for $1 convert that over to Game Pass Ultimate, it takes all of that and converts it all across. So you can get Xbox Ultimate for cheaper because you purchase it at the lower price for Xbox Game Pass. And then for the $1, you just convert all of that over to Xbox Ultimate, which that includes Xbox Game Pass. It includes Game Pass for console and PC, as well as Xbox Live. Definitely make sure you do that before you you upgrade to Ultimate to lock in that cheaper cost, because Microsoft's aware of it and they're willing to do it. But I don't know how long that $1 conversion buy-in price is going to last. They've just said that it's going to be available for a limited amount of time, and I haven't had a chance to check on that. I really got to say, Xbox is doing this Game Pass thing right. Having a lot of their games come day one is excellent. It's why I picked up Sea of Thieves. It's actually, I take that back. I didn't pick up Sea of Thieves on Game Pass. I bought it because I wanted the pre-order set. And then I picked up Game Pass later on to be able to try out other games because they had a console version or a PC version. So aside from the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, or Xbox, yeah, I think that's what it's called. They talked a little bit about Xbox Project Scarlet, which is also really, like, I'm looking forward to seeing how that is, because new gen consoles are always amazing, and it feels like they're focusing less on like how many gigaflops there is for like the actual video card, and working on making sure that the resolution and the frame rate and load times are up to par. Like, there's no point in playing a 4K game if there's a long load time and the variable refresh rate is an issue where you're not getting that 4K all the time. Like, having really, really good resolution with stable frame rates and fast load times, to me, is a lot more important than HDR or ray tracing. But they're looking on making like ray tracing something that is hardware driven as opposed to software driven, which is such a crazy thing. Like, and a lot of people aren't really looking at ray tracing, and a lot of people don't know what that is, and that's fine because it's kind of a term that's been bounced around for a long time. But as far as I understand it, basically what this does is, if you hold your hand up in front of a light, you and you look at the top of your hand, you see the light on top of it, but the bottom of your hand isn't completely dark. There's ambient light, and that ambient light is light that's being reflected off of other surfaces and then back towards your hand. So the bottom half of your hand is darker, but comes with different shades of light. You're getting light from multiple sources, typically, your computer screen and the ambient light in the room, and all of that mixes together. And that's kind of what ray tracing does, is it pulls lighting from areas that aren't visible to you sometimes, and shows those on surfaces the way that they would in nature. And having it being done by hardware as opposed to software takes a lot of the load off of having to render out stuff on the game. It basically makes it a lot faster to process, so you get better results because of that. So I'm glad to see that these newer systems that are going to be coming out are even more powerful. They're getting closer and closer to PCs as far as what's available, but still maintaining that kind of set specifics so that developers know exactly what they need to build for. And I think that's awesome. Let's take a break. But Microsoft wasn't just talking about their services and hardware. In fact, if anything, they didn't really touch too much on that. They actually went the other route and talked about acquiring Double Fine Studios to go in with their other studios that they've been acquiring. And I think they're bolstered up to about 16 different studios now, which in my mind is insane, because they're really setting themselves up to have a lot of content for gamers without requiring third-party content. They're kind of doing what Nintendo does, where Nintendo has a bunch of teams, and all of those teams have multiple IPs to work with, and they're putting out content based on the regularity of those IPs. And Microsoft Studios is not necessarily going that route. They're going in the route that they're going to have a lot of different companies that they trust to make good games. But those companies are free to kind of make whatever games they want, other than, say, like 343 and Rare, which are kind of the two staples as far as I'm concerned with Halo and Sea of Thieves. I guess if you think about it, technically, Gears of War and State of Decay are the other two pillar IPs that they have right now. But this Microsoft is coming out strong. They're saying, look, we know we've got a lot of games, and one of the ones that some of the ones that people are going to be looking forward to are games like Gears 5 that they had a really kind of weird trailer for. And that's fine, because at this point, I haven't played through 4. I don't know much about the story. And until I get that, I'm not too worried about Gears 5 coming down the line. I'll probably check that out after I've gotten a chance to play through the campaign of 4, which I've been told is really, really interesting. They also had a really cool, scary kind of game, which I always stray from because I'm such a pansy when it comes to scary games. I scream and I don't want to play them. But Blair Witch is getting a game, which was out of nowhere, and it looks crazy but good. And it was really strange because up until the very end, where they actually showed a guy with an old video camera and then there's a person in the corner, I was like, God, that kind of looks like, that reminds me of Blair Witch. And the next thing you know, they pan up and you see the top of the forest, and it has the stick figure of the Blair Witch icon. And I don't know, maybe they're coming out with a new movie as well down the line that we just haven't heard about. But it's an interesting idea to make a game based on the Blair Witch. I think it's been done before. We'll have to see how this goes. It could be another one of those ones where you have the one person who's like a super person going after the like kind of Dead by Daylight and that Predator game that's coming out that's an asymmetrical survival game. And there's another one too. Oh, the Friday the 13th. That I know CJ loves so much, where you're Jason and you're going after the campers. Seeing these kind of games come out has me excited. I'm interested to see how those go. And there's another one that's coming down the line too. I'll talk about later on. But Gears 5 and Blair Witch are great. I think the two that everyone was really excited for though was basically Halo Infinite and Cyberpunk 2077. Now, if you've been in the Discord, you probably already know, or if you've seen me on Twitter, you probably already know this, but I'm a huge Cyberpunk junkie at this point. Like I found out about that game last year, a year ago, and I've been excited and trying to decide when I want to, or if I want to make a podcast on Cyberpunk 2077, because it's a single player game. It's got varying stories and chains, so there's some replay value there as far as making a different character and going a different route, but it's not an online persistent world, and we haven't heard much as far as them talking about post-launch content. So starting up a podcast around that is kind of hard to know. Like, is it's going to be like a short-term game as far as like, or short-term podcast as far as just making something and letting it actually quit after a certain amount of episodes or not. But this game looks amazing. It's set in a cyberpunk future where body modification is just rampart. It's something that everyone expects and everyone does. And it's definitely like a dystopian future. You know, you have these giant stack tower buildings that everyone lives in, and that's, you know, you're kind of down and dirty with everyone that you live with. And there's plenty of crime. There's crime lords out there that are willing to have you pick up missions to go recover stuff for people to be able to get intel, or to be able to kind of go against the militaristic companies that are running most of the world now. And it doesn't seem like there's really a military in place, and it looks amazing. It's done by CD Projekt Red, who were the ones that did Witcher 3, which ironically enough, Witcher 3 The Wild Hunt is a complete edition that is coming to Nintendo Switch. And while the graphic fidelity won't be there because of the just how much effort it takes to make that kind of a game look good, they're going to have all the DLC for it, and all of the DLC plus the game are going to be on the cartridge. They've actually opted to go with a 32-bit cartridge for Nintendo Switch, just so that people don't have to download all of the game onto their system, something that's been a huge pain point for anyone that's a Switch fan, where you've had to buy like Bayonetta 1 and 2, and Bayonetta 1 is a download code, or Resident Evil 0 and 1, where you have to download one of the games, or any of the Mega Man collections where you have to download most of the games. And to see that they're willing to put all of the game on a cartridge makes me want to buy it, even though I own it. I own it on PC. I could play it in highest fidelity. I could play it with all the particles, all the JPEGs, and I'm tempted to pick it up for Switch just because I know that they put it all on the cartridge. And that's amazing. I might actually get a chance to sit down and actually finish it. So Cyberpunk 2077, definitely probably my number one game from any other company outside of Nintendo at this point that I'm looking forward to checking out. And to top it off, the craziest thing was the fact that they had Keanu Reeves in it. And Keanu Reeves is going to be a major character in the game. In fact, they even confirmed that he has the most dialogue next to the main player, the person, like your character, because they're going to be helping you with everything. They're going to be helping you understand like everything that's going on in the world, or he's going to be helping you understand everything that's going on in the world. His character's name's Johnny Silverhand or John Silverhand, something like that. And in the RP books, he's a major player. He's a big person to work with in the RP books. So to have him kind of come out after the John Wick films and the other games that he's been in, and to see him come out and do this is great, especially considering of how nice of a guy he is and how hard of a life he's led outside of like making good movies. So I also think he's the one person that's been in more of any of the future cyberpunk version films. Like he's done them all. He's Lawnmower Man, Matrix, you name it. He's probably been the main John in it, because it seems to be John with everything too. I don't quite get that. But to see him come out and be charming and do kind of an introduction that if it had been left up to any of the people from CD Projekt Red or Microsoft, probably wouldn't have come across as cool. But the fact that he came out and knew that he had to say like this canned summary of what the game is, as if people couldn't gather it from the amazing trailers that they've put out. It was nice to see him just be like, all right, I know you guys are happy to see me. I have to actually say this thing. I have to actually get this out there. So let me get this out there. We'll move on, but thank you, kind of thing. And that was cool. That was really, really heartwarming to see him get so much love from everyone. Everyone kind of loves that guy, and I don't know why you wouldn't. He's such a nice guy.
Cyberpunk is set in a metropolis of the future, where body modification has become an obsession. You play as an outlaw, an enhanced mercenary working in the sleazy underbelly of the city. Yeah. Okay, but let me tell you, the feeling of being there, of walking the streets of the future, is really going to be breathtaking. You're breathtaking. You're all breathtaking. All right. So I got to finish this. So tell me, do you guys want to know when the release date?
The other two games that were from Microsoft's press conference that I think are awesome, that I want to find out more about, is 12 Minutes. That's coming to Xbox One and PC. It's literally a time loop, and each loop is 12 minutes. And as you play each loop, you learn more about what's going on, and you can shortcut conversations by jumping the gun on people. Like, they're playing out their lives as if nothing's changed, but the more you learn, the more you understand, there's something that you have to do to get out of this time loop. And this is starting to be kind of a new version of a roguelike. I'm starting to see probably a half dozen games that have come out recently that are on these set time loops, where you have to go out and do more exploration, and every time you go out and explore, hopefully you're learning something new to get you further progress in the story to eventually get you out of the loop. It's kind of cool. I like it. It's kind of like a Groundhog's Day thing where you know, they're taking that concept of having to relive the day and not necessarily have to relive through the day the same way that you did prior, until eventually you get out of that day's time. But giving people, you know, like a 30-minute loop or a 12-minute loop, it doesn't necessarily restrict you as far as how long you have to play. I just want to know, like, if I put this game down for a month to pick up something else, how hard is it going to be for me to pick back up and kind of continue on with the rest of the game? And the other game that I wanted to touch on from the Microsoft press conference that I thought was beautiful was this game called Spiritfarer. and they are like a ferryman for spirits, these animal spirits, and you play as this girl with her cat, and you have some special powers. It seems like you have this belt that allows you to like manifest different things, like a fishing pole or a pickaxe or oven mitts to pull out a cake, and you're on a boat that you build on, and you can expand the boat. It seems kind of like Terraria, where you're kind of like 2D platforming, and you're on this one boat, and you have to kind of survive the elements and get these animal spirits to wherever they have to go to pass on. And it looks beautiful. The graphics for it are amazing. The other game that was coming out that kind of gives me the same vibes is Ori and the Will of the Wisps, or I can't remember if that's the sequel or if Ori and the Blind Forest is the sequel. One of those two is the sequel, and I haven't played either of them, obviously, because I don't know which one's the first one and which one's the second one, but they look amazing, and I'm sure they're a lot of fun. I just haven't had the time to sit down and focus on it. If Ori and the Blind Forest was coming to Switch, I think that's the first one. So if I'm getting it wrong, forgive me. Don't at me about that, because I'm not going to pause to look it up real quick. Then I think that's one that I would love to sit down and actually play portably, because I love having these nice, beautiful experiences that are something that still looks good even on a 720p screen, that will kind of give me that good gameplay loop while I'm like playing during lunch or something like that. All right, so the next part of E3 that I wanted to talk about is probably going to be Nintendo, because I'm a huge Nintendo fanboy. I have been since I started playing games back in it would have been 1989, I believe, because I got my first Nintendo when I was 7 years old, and I was born in 82, so I think that math checks out. So 89, I get a Nintendo. Ever since then, been hooked on Nintendo games. Owned every console except for the Wii and the Wii U, because I'm not touching motion controls. I can't do it. I'm sorry. And they had their Nintendo Direct, and then of course like 3 days of Treehouse stuff, which is insane to have to go through all those, but it's a lot of information. They didn't do anything too crazy this E3. I feel like everything that they talked about was kind of a confirmation of what we already kind of knew was coming. The major games obviously are the ones that I'm always excited to be able to check out. Cadence of Hyrule, the Crypt of the Necrodancer featuring The Legend of Zelda, came out this week, and I've been playing that a lot during my breaks at work. It's a really interesting take on Legend of Zelda, and I'm not quite sold on it. To be fair, I'm not a huge rhythm person, and I'm even less of a roguelike person, but the Zelda part of it sells it for me, and because of that, I've been having a lot of fun kind of hopping around listening to the Zelda music with a bit of a beat to it, and it's actually caused me to listen to a lot of Zelda music just naturally from Spotify. So, which, speaking of, Spotify has a horrible selection of Zelda title songs. Really disappointed. It makes me wish I had YouTube Red so I could just listen to people's OSTs ripped and posted. The next game that I'm probably going to be picking up, honestly, for the Switch is going to be Super Mario Maker 2. I almost picked up a Wii U just for Super Mario Maker. I seriously considered picking up a Wii U just for that. And then I heard about I did little research, found out about the 3DS and how it has like all the Zelda games. And then I heard about the NX rumors. And then after that, I was like, all right, I'm going to hold off and see what this whole NX thing is about. And then when the Switch was announced, I was like, okay, I'm sold. That's got the new Zelda. I'm going to pick up that system blind, never looking back. So Mario Maker 2 is a game that I know I'm going to be building levels in, where I originally didn't think I would build levels. I thought I would just play other people's levels and play the main campaign, but after seeing what you can do and how easy it is to build levels, I'm kind of excited to see like how good of levels I can make that are just fun. Not like I'm not looking to make something that's super hard. I don't need to be making stuff that's super hard. I don't need to focus that much effort, but I don't know. I just love good Mario levels, and it seems like this is like endless Mario. So glad to see that. The next thing that I'm going to be picking up after that is definitely going to be The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. And to see the gameplay for this it's so beautiful. It's such a cute looking game. If you haven't seen it, it looks like everything's kind of made of plastic, but in a really endearing to true to nature kind of way. Like if the Game Boy had the graphical fidelity that the Switch has now, I feel like when they made Link's Awakening, this was the aesthetic that they probably would have gone with, because it's just that adorable. It's still top-down view. It's still almost exactly like Link's Awakening from the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. They even have the color dungeons from the DX version that came out forever ago when the Game Boy Color came out. The thing that's really cool is back then they had the Game Boy camera. And if you ever played with the Game Boy camera, you knew you could print off your photos. And they had a special thing in Link's Awakening where you could take photos in the game to progress and be able to print out photos from the game. They've scrapped that because obviously there's no camera on the Switch, and there's not going to be, but they put in a dungeon making kind of thing, and it's kind of like Zelda Maker. You know, you get these tile sets, and these tile sets have certain things like enemies or torches or chests or keys, items, doors, things like that. Anything that you would expect out of a traditional 2D Zelda game. This is kind of what these different tiles are, and each tile is procedurally generated. You can mix and match all of these different tiles on this map to create your own dungeon. And some of these dungeons, I guess, are designed to get you items. I think they showed like you completed one dungeon, so you got like a bottle from it. And as far as I know, this is something that you'll be able to share with other people. I've heard that they've talked a little bit about how you should be able to give these dungeons to other people to play. I don't know how that works. They haven't really specified it as far as I've seen. I'm sure there's a lot of information in the tree houses that I missed, even though I watched most of them on the titles that I was really interested in. This is still something that's just really, really amazing to be able to do. I would look forward to the day where we have like a Super Mario Maker for Zelda, or Metroid even. Metroid I think would even be better, because Metroid, you could take the tile sets from the different games just like Super Mario Maker and do the exact same thing. Place your own space pirates, place your own Chozos, and you know, add 3 or 4 Ridleys that you have to battle. You know, all those different things you could totally do with Metroid, and just make a Metroid Maker. The next 2 games that actually the next game after that, after Zelda Link's Awakening, I'll probably be picking up one of the 2 Pokemon games. I think I've pre-ordered Sword. I think I picked up Sword. Don't quote me on that. But I'm definitely going to be picking up one of those. I love this. It looks adorable. It looks like they're attempting to make Pokemon in kind of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you know, where it's open world. You get to run around, you get to see the Pokemon and choose if you want to fight them. Something I loved with Let's Go Pikachu. And it's a whole new group of Pokemon with a few of the old ones mixed in, and they're doing a great job. It's amazing that these games come out annually, and that they were able to switch, no pun intended, from the 3DS into the Nintendo Switch so smoothly. Like, we had Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, which is a remake of the original one, and they've been able to come out with an 8th gen of Pokemon in this new game. So I can't wait to see, like, what does next year bring. Will next year be the gold and silver versions of Let's Go? And will the year after that be a Gen 9? And they'll just go back and kind of revamp these old Game Boy games for newer players with these new mechanics, because these are a heck of a lot better than random battles. I gotta say, I'd never been a fan of the random battles because I get 2 or 3 in and my Pokemon are almost dead, and then I feel like I got to run back to town and I hardly make any progress, even though my Pokemon are barely getting much XP. So I've heard that it's better in future games too. I know I have one of them, like Ruby. I can't even think of what it's called. I've got one of them. I haven't played much of it, but moving on, the 2 main games that I think are coming out in at the end of 2019 and 2020 are Luigi's Mansion 3 and Animal Crossing New Horizons. God, I loved my GameCube. I think GameCube and Xbox in 2001 were the 2 consoles that I fell so much in love with. Obviously, I spoke about Xbox and doing Halo parties and stuff like that, but my GameCube, I got so much use out of that, and I miss it dearly. But Luigi's Mansion and Animal Crossing are the 2 main games that I played on that system, outside of Smash and the Star Wars Rogue Leaders or Rogue Squadron games. And oh man, I can't wait for this Animal Crossing game. Having 8 players, being on an island, having crafting, having all the different things that I kind of expected like would be in previous iterations of Animal Crossing games that I guess have really kind of, really made me feel like I haven't missed out on much since the GameCube versions. And I feel like this is the proper progression for what you would expect a future Animal Crossing game. Now that we've got internet and stuff, it only makes sense that you'd be able to play with more people and do more things and have a lot more control over stuff and be able to build stuff from scratch. I'm loving it. I think it's amazing. I spend so much time relaxing playing those different games. Luigi's Mansion, just such a great game, such a cute game. Luigi's my favorite player out of the Mario franchise, and just one of those things where like he rarely ever gets to shine. And having a Mansion 3 with ghosts, being a Ghostbuster in a mansion with Luigi, like come on, it's amazing. I love the hotel aesthetic and going up the different levels. And then they hit us with probably the thing that obsessed me the most, with Cadence of Hyrule, with listening to Zelda music, with Link's Awakening on the horizon. We found out, and actually, sorry, I had to take a drink there. I was getting kind of long-winded, but at the very end of the Direct, they announced that they are working on a new game. And this new game is probably the most amazing, exciting thing I've gotten to check out in a while. They're announcing Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. This game is going to be amazing. I cannot wait for this. It's set in Breath of the Wild. They've got the engine, they've got the assets, they're building on what they've got. And there's been some debate on whether or not people think this is before Breath of the Wild 1 or after. And personally, I think it's after, because Zelda and Link are together, but the champions aren't around. Even though the towers aren't there, I think the towers and the shrines all receded back into the ground since Calamity Ganon was defeated. And you get this dark toned version, this trailer of Zelda and Link going down into this temple, they've got this giant yak, and they got a whole bunch of wood and stuff there. So obviously they've been traveling for a while, and they get down to this chamber that has a bunch of kind of spikes jutted outward towards the center of the room. And in the center of the room, there's this giant spiraling green ribbon of magic that's just kind of going up into a circle. And then out from this middle section, there's a whole bunch of kind of like creepy blue googly stuff, or black googly stuff, that's just like it's dangerous. It kills rats. It's a great pest control thing. And they zoom in as they're walking to this chamber. You see the walls as they're passing by, and they show the torchlight, and it shows this painted figure on a horse holding a trident, and their back has armor with the icon of the Gerudo on there, and he's holding this trident, and that's it reminds me of the Trident of Power from the Minish Cap game, or not Minish Cap game, the Four Swords game, where Ganondorf got the Trident of Power and took on Link in the Four Swords. And then, of course, that goes into the Minish Cap. It's all in the child era timeline. I'm not even going to get into the Zelda timeline thing. It's a whole nother thing. There's books on it that are revised editions and all that good jazz. But they find this mummified body in the center chamber that is like seeping black goo energy that kills stuff. And on the chest of this figure is this gold hand, or this white kind of greenish like energy hand. It has like gold kind of adornments to it. And the hand looks like it's something from Twilight Princess. Midna has like her hair that kind of acts as a hand that can do stuff. Kind of looks like that. And the green energy, the spirals of green energy, looks to be Gerudo text, Gerudo alphabetic language. And it says, from what someone else has translated that I haven't gotten a chance to check it out myself, that it says Seal Ganon. And this is the first shot of us finding Ganondorf. The Ganondorf that might have been from Twilight Princess, who was killed in the middle of the field, stabbed in the chest, and then Zant broke his neck. And it was quite an epic scene if you ever got to play that game. I saved my GameCube just to be able to play it, because I wasn't going to play it on Wii, because I ain't about that motion control. And to see them, to see Ganondorf, and then to find out like and everything's cut, like the whole trailer is not chronological. It is cut up and split up in different areas. So you get peaceful, you get dangerous, you get peaceful, you get dangerous. And you see, from what I've worked out in my mind, the headcanon that I've created, Link tries to touch or reinforce or do something to this Seal Ganon spell. I'm pretty sure he screws something up, and Ganondorf comes back, and his neck snaps back into place, and his eyes light up, and the whole ground starts to break away, and Zelda falls. Link grabs her. He's losing his grip, and then just as he starts to fall, the hand that was holding Ganon in place reaches down and grabs Link's arm. And then it cuts to the shot of Link or Hyrule Castle rising up from the ground. And it's hard to know if it's rising up to reveal Ganon's temple, or if it's just rising up out of the ground. There's no way of knowing right now where Zelda and Link and Ganondorf are, but I do know that the Yiga clan from Breath of the Wild were worshiping Ganon, and they had a giant hole at the end of their dungeon thing that you kicked the final boss into, kind of 300 style. Actually, I think it was he fell on his own stupidity, but there's a giant hole in that area, and we don't know what's in there. And in fact, we have no clue like what's down in there. And it makes me wonder if if Link and Zelda went down in there in an expedition to find out, like, you know, if they could find where Calamity Ganon came from to try and reinforce the seals that are holding him in place now. From the Seven Sages, and I can't get over this trailer. It's amazing. It's one of those things that I can't wait to find out what they're doing. We're probably not going to see this game in the next 2 years. I'm thinking this is going to be like a 2002 thing. If it's any idea of like how they're going to be able to do this, because all the tools that they built, all of that stuff was done in the Wii U. So I don't know how hard it's going to be to continue making that. If it's something that is going to come out for Wii U as well, or if they've been able to take that entire engine and port it over to being able to make it for the Switch specifically, using a little bit better graphics, using a little bit better frame rate to optimize it for the Switch. All that stuff is hard to do, and I kind of wonder if they're going to have some of the problems that they ran into when they were making the original game to come into the second one. Things that I know people really want: no more breaking weapons and actual dungeons. Those are things that I'm definitely looking forward to. I would love to play a game where I don't have to constantly like pick up weapons or hold on to good ones. But I know a lot of people still have a lot of fun with Zelda. I think the fastest time that I've seen for a speed run was 28 minutes, which that's insane to beat that game in 28 minutes to be able to do that. But it's that's going to do it for the Nintendo section. I know this was probably the longest section, and I dissected the entire minute and a half trailer in like 30 minutes. But I had to get it out of my system. I had to talk about this. There's a few more other games that I think I want to talk about, but I'm going to cut out a lot of the other stuff. All right, Pirates. The last few games that I did want to kind of touch on that I thought were really cool coming out of E3, the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order game. This game did not present well on the actual presentation, but I went back and I watched the actual trailer and the gameplay, and I'm kind of excited for it. I'm kind of looking forward to a Star Wars game, something that's done by Respawn. I haven't gotten a chance to play much of the Titanfall 2 campaign, but what I did play I really enjoyed, and I think I'm ready for another Star Wars game. We've had the movies. We're ending soon with the Star Wars saga, or with the Skywalker saga, and it'll be interesting to see just how they go with an actual, first player game, something that isn't a Battlefield game. The other games that are coming out, obviously the Outer Worlds looks interesting, kind of future dystopian gameplay, as well as Borderlands 3, same scenario. And I'm kind of over Borderlands 3 stuff right now. I'm pretty good with just waiting for that game to come out and then play it there. Doom Eternal looks amazing. Can't believe it's coming out on Nintendo Switch. Same thing with Wolfenstein Youngblood. Bethesda spent a lot of their press conference not apologizing for Fallout 76 and oh my gosh, I just blanked on the name. Blades, Elder Scrolls Blades. But they're doubling down. They're committing to working on their games, and that's exactly what I think they should be doing right now. Not a big fan of it's weird that Commander Keen's coming out of retirement in a new game. I think it's with his kids now, and that's a weird IP to pick up and then put to mobile. But good for them for finding something different instead of just remastering something else. It'll probably be. I think they were saying like Starfield and Elder Scrolls aren't getting any major things for quite a while. I think ESO is still going strong. And Ghostwire Tokyo, which that's a game that we know nothing about, but it's going to be a spooky detective story style game that's coming out from Bethesda's, one of their companies, and they did a good job kind of selling me on the trailer. It looks crazy, it looks weird. I have no clue what it is, but I'll definitely look into it when it does. There were 2 games by Ubisoft that I thought was interesting. Watch Dogs Legion, where you can play as anyone, and they had the whole endearing like secret agent grandma kind of going around tasering guys and shooting people in the face and kind of like having a hard time. But that's a weird one to try and build a game where you can play as any. I mean, they say that you can play as any NPC, which kind of defeats the point of calling them an NPC, because then they wouldn't actually be a non-playable character if you can play as anyone. So I guess the game is about having tons of different playable characters. You just have to recruit them to help take down this post-Brexit London, and that'll be interesting. It's got potential, but I'm curious to see the execution. Ubisoft makes great games as far as I'm concerned. Everything I played from them has been a lot of fun. And then they're coming out with a Zelda style game, which is kind of interesting, but it's got Greek mythology. It's called Gods and Monsters. Very cartoon aesthetic, and very, very kind of cool looking. We got a trailer, so I'm looking forward to seeing more actual gameplay. E3 is kind of a weird thing, though. You know, you get a lot of these games where you're basically watching a bunch of companies do announcement trailers, hopefully with some gameplay of games that are going to be coming out in around anywhere from, you know, shadow drop in the day of to you know, a good like 8 to 10 months out, if not further. And with that, it's like, how much can you really expect from companies to put gameplay and have that gameplay look like something that's going to be coming in the final build of that game? Anthem is a huge, you know, kind of thorn in the side of E3. They haven't talked much about that game since launch. It looked good when they showed it off at E3 2018, and then they said that it was coming out in 2019, and I said, that's not coming out in 2019, that's getting delayed. But no, it came out. I didn't like the demo. I had a really hard time getting past all the load screens. It felt like this game was made by multiple people, and they all kind of came together and duct taped all the different parts that they worked on together. But that's one of those things, like, it looked good at E3 and it played horribly on launch. So with E3, I think the spectacle here is taking away what you can of the titles that you can look forward to getting, and then seeing. I mean, it's the same thing as trailers with movies. You know, you see trailers for movies that shows you all the funny, interesting, exciting, emotional bits to get you interested in what the story is about, and then you go to actually see the story to enjoy the full telling of what's going on. Even with like Titanic, you know what's going to happen, but you actually want to get in there and see what's going on with it, to why that story is interesting. And if you haven't seen Titanic, I'm sorry, the ship sinks, but it's a lot more than that. It's been 84 years. And I think that's going to do it. There's a couple games coming out. New Super Lucky's Tale, which is going to be a platformer, 3D platformer, kind of like Banjo-Kazooie, which was crazily announced for the Smash Brothers. Didn't see that coming, but kind of saw that coming. Maybe we'll get Rare Replay. I was really hoping that they were going to be announcing Sea of Thieves on Game Pass coming to Switch this year. I was really hoping that relationship with Nintendo would just get even better post Cuphead, post Banjo-Kazooie coming to Smash Brothers. And, you know, there's still time. There's still time. Game Pass could, as a service, still be put on the Switch. I think Microsoft is in the position where they're building the best game as a service or game service than any other company, even PlayStation, which conveniently forgets that they have these things, according to CJ, which I agree. I don't think they pay much attention to their services, and Nintendo is still trying to work out how to log into the internet. They're still expecting you to voice chat with people on your mobile phone as opposed to having like a party system. And yeah, I think that's it as far as like E3 news, guys. I think you've listened to this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I know I mostly just talked about like what's coming and why I'm excited for it. I didn't dive into too much other than the Nintendo stuff, but this is all stuff that's been on my chest, and I love talking with you. I love playing games, and to be able to share this is been enjoyable. Let me know if this is something that you want to have more of. Let me know if this is something that you want to stay off, except for because I'm probably going to do E3 next year. Same thing. I'm probably gonna have the same kind of a thing because everyone shuts down at E3 aside from announcements, and if they're not announcing anything, then they're gonna do what they did this year, which was go to E3 and not have any news about the game. So it's either going to be a lot of news or no news. It's famine or feast with this situation. So hopefully you enjoyed it, though. Hopefully you had a good time listening to this. I had a good time kind of going through and getting excited about all these different things that are going to be coming, and I look forward to seeing like how the rest of this year plays out. We still don't know anything as far as Sea of Thieves news goes about what's coming down the line. I'm imagining we'll probably get new content in, let's see, we are probably going to hear something soon towards the end of the month with the coming patch, and then post 26th. Let me actually take a look at the let's see, yeah, I would say the 26th of June is when they were planning on having that next patch. So not this week, but next week, the week after, we'll probably get an update that will have some changes. I think they said that the letters of recommendation are coming for the two new trade companies, and some bug fixes and stuff. And we'll probably get some content in July. The arena and the Tall Tales have only been out for a short amount of time. A lot of people have gotten them done, but a lot of people haven't. And as a result, they should get some time to kind of get used to some of the new stuff in the game. And in the meantime, we've got a lot of other stuff that's available to us. So looking forward to seeing what your thoughts are of this episode. Let me know. There's plenty of ways to do it. You can always reach me on through email, CaptainLogun@gmail.com. You can always reach out to me on Xbox too. My gamer tag is CaptainLogun, CaptainLogun. You can always hit me up on Twitter at CAPT_LOGUN. And join the Discord. Feel free to jump in, chat with us. There's a channel for general gaming. There's a couple specialty channels for some of the games that people are interested in right now, as well as just general channels for the different consoles. And there's always something to chat about. So feel free to jump in if you have any questions, comments, concerns about the podcast as well too. Pirates, I'm gonna go ahead and hold off on my captain's log. I had a great time sailing the other day, and I do have a couple stories I do want to share with you, but the episode's already running long, and I want to get you guys out of here. There's plenty of other stuff to listen to. So I love you, Pirates. Thank you, and I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.